Awesome. Thanks very much, Jessica. Our last session is Empowering ArchivesSpace Governance Roles in You. This session is a collaborative presentation of the branches of ArchivesSpace Governance. As a member-driven organization, ArchivesSpace relies on the insight and contributions of users from member institutions to drive the nation's leading archives management application forward. The presentation will include an overview of governance structure, including the board and councils, a review of recent governance initiatives and discussions, an open Q&A period with board members and council chairs. This session aims to increase your knowledge of the governance structure, give the wider ArchivesSpace community a chance to get to know what the board and councils do, connect with their representatives, and possibly inspire members to become more active in ArchivesSpace governance. So we have quite a few folks who are going to be in this group answering questions and talking to you, and I'll run through them real quick. We have Maggie Hughes, she, her, hers, manager of manager of special collections processing and cataloging at the Getty Research Institute. Eric Mitchell, he, him, his. Audrey Geisel, University Librarian, UC San Diego. Jared Cowing, he, him, his. Systems Librarian at Williams College. Linda Hocking, she, her, hers. Archivist for Law Collections, Lillian Goldman Law Library, Yale Law School. Weatherly Stephen, she, her, hers, head Archival Collections Management, New York University. Austin Munsell, he, him, his, Assistant Director for Collections Management, University of Oregon Libraries, Special Collections, and University Archives. Rebecca Baggin, she, her, hers, Special Collections Librarian, University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Matthew Neely, he, him, his, Senior Archivist, Bodleian Libraries, University of Oxford. Catherine Crow, she, her, hers, Curator of Special Collections and Archives, University of Denver. And take it away, governance folks.
Thank you. Thank you for reading all of our names. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Maggie Hughes. Thank you for joining us today for the last session of the Virtual Members Forum. As you just heard, it's not just me speaking today, but you will hear from other members of the board and chairs of the councils. Let's see. So our agenda is, I'll give an overview of the governance board and roles, do introductions to member representatives and other board members, as well as council chairs. We'll go over some of the recent initiatives and discussions that these governance structures have been having. And then time permitting, we have an opportunity for some Q&A and discussion with everyone who's here today. So the governance board provides leadership for the ArchivesSpace community and advises lyricists on ongoing development and support. We have representatives from all different levels of ArchivesSpace membership. We want to give our community many different ways to participate and make sure different sizes of institutions have representation and a voice in the development of the application. We help to set membership policies. We review and approve budgets and resource allocation. We advise on program initiatives. And we also focus on meeting the needs of broad and diverse archival institutions in a balanced and equitable manner. You probably are familiar, but ArchivesSpace includes all different types of repositories. We have government archives, academic, nonprofit, independent libraries, public libraries of all different sizes, and not only in North America, but increasingly all over the world. And I also want to mention that being a member of the board is a great way to get experience with reviewing budgets and financial reports, if that's in a professional area where you're interested in growing. So the board has quarterly meetings and we run on a July to June fiscal year calendar. Our third quarter meeting, which is usually around February, so that was our most recent board meeting, is typically a longer meeting that takes place over the course of 2 meetings. And this allows the board time to have like our standard meeting business, as well as in the second meeting, a more in-depth discussion or activity as a way to learn or take our discussions deeper, perhaps around a strategic priority or need. Our board meetings cover a variety of topics. We have a lot of standing topics like reviewing the operations reports, financial reports and budgets, and updates from councils. And then there are topics that vary meeting to meeting, depending on any active committees, action items, or unique requests that come up. For example, when reviewing the budget proposal for this current fiscal year, at the end of the last fiscal year, the board approved a request for funds to support development work to create an end-to-end test suite to support ongoing development with automated testing as part of the proposed budget for the year. Growing and sustaining membership is a key priority for the board. It's critical for the sustainability of the community and the application. And this includes our education program members, which allows ArchivesSpace to be a teaching tool and support learning and instruction in different degree granting programs, primarily around archival and library education. Since 2022, the education program members also includes an option to request a university or organization sandbox for students to use. And then it also includes our consortium provider members, a membership affiliation that was implemented about 2 to 3 years ago that's open to regional and thematic library archives and other consortia providing hosting or other services related to ArchivesSpace to their member organizations. So the governance board has 5 elected members, 1 representing each of the 5 membership size levels, and 1 member from each of the 2 founding partner institutions. The service term for elected members is 3 years, and there's generally at least 1 ex officio non-voting member from Lyrasis senior management as well. In the past and currently, there have sometimes been other ex officio members of the board. I'm currently one of those, which I'll explain in a little bit. All right, so if each of my fellow board members who's here today could please introduce yourselves and say a little bit about how you joined the board or your history with ArchivesSpace, I would much appreciate it. You can unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you'd like. So we'll start at the top of the list with Matthew.
Hi, I'm Matthew Neely, and I'm a senior archivist at the University of Oxford, and I have been using ArchivesSpace since 2018 at my institution. I previously was on the User Advisory Council of 2020 to 2024 and worked on the DevBri sub-team, and I really enjoyed that experience and wanted to do more, and the board position came up, so I decided to stand.
Thank you. Catherine Crow, Kate couldn't be here with us today, so I'll introduce her. She's the curator of special collections and archives at the University of Denver. She's the representative for the large size membership cohort, and she's been a member of the board from 2023 through currently. And let's see. Oh, next on the list is Julia Novakovic. She also could not be with us today, unfortunately. Julia is the digital archivist at the Rochester Institute of Technology. She's the representative for the medium-sized institutions. And Julia was previously the board vice chair and chair in her first term from 2021 to 2024. She's rejoined the board for a second term as of last year and is the current past chair. Julia is chairing the nominating committee this spring, and she took over chairing the Code of Conduct Review Task Force, which is wrapping up now, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a little bit. And next is Jared.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jared Cowing. I apologize in advance if I start coughing. I'm just getting over a cold. So I am the small institution representative. There's about, I believe, around 111 small institution members. And in my job, I work at Williams College out in Western Massachusetts. I'm the systems librarian here. So organizationally, I'm not part of our special collections department, but I'm in our equivalent of technical services. But I'm the systems librarian for all the libraries, which includes special collections. That means I'm not generally the person or one of the people in ArchivesSpace making edits to metadata, but I'm helping troubleshoot and communicate about version updates, investigate plugins, that sort of thing. And so since I don't have that natural immersion, I guess, in ArchivesSpace that you would get if you're actually in there daily. I'm always trying to find new opportunities to learn more, especially also because I don't have a background as an archivist. My background is in like general collections cataloging before I got into systems. So I'm always looking for ways to get involved in the community, and the governance board seemed like one possible way to do that. Initially, I was a little hesitant because I wasn't sure, how do you need to be an archivist proper to be on the board, or, what kind of expertise and backgrounds that they're looking for. But I talked with a few folks involved in governance and was encouraged that, you can come from different backgrounds or different types of expertise and serving governance wherever you're coming from. And so I decided to run last year for this particular position.
Thank you, Jared. Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Hocking. Prior to coming to Yale last June, I was the archivist at the Litchfield Historical Society. And I believe, joined ArchivesSpace around 2013 as one of the early members. And I was on the User Advisory Council at that time. And then last year or the year before, I don't even remember now, ran for the governance board. And just to echo what Jared said, ArchivesSpace is a really welcoming community, so I would encourage everyone to find a way to get involved.
Thank you. So on the board, as I mentioned, we also have 2 founding partner institutions with seats. That's New York University and UC San Diego that are on the board as project partners and always have a seat on the board. First, we have Weatherly.
Hi, I'm Weatherly Stephen. I'm the head of Archival Collections Management at New York University. I have worked in ArchivesSpace since 2015 when NYU started migrating to ArchivesSpace. And I have previously been an ArchivesSpace member match participant. And I just joined the board last year, even though I've been at NYU for several years.
Thank you. Eric?
Thanks so much, Maggie. My camera's over here. So Eric Mitchell, I'm the University Librarian at UC San Diego. You all may know that ArchivesSpace came together through the generous support of the Mellon Foundation, and NYU, UC San Diego, and UIUC, Illinois, were the 3 organizations on that grant. And so what flowed from that was a continuing role for our organizations as founding partners on the board. And really our job is to make sure that we remain a member-driven and member-funded organization overall, and provide any financial backstop that needs to happen as part of the organizational home process. So it's a real pleasure to see so many folks today, and I've learned a lot. I'm not an archivist, so I've gotten a lot out of today's sessions. So Maggie, back to you.
Thank you. And then, as I mentioned, we do have some non-voting members of the board. That includes me. I'm Maggie Hughes. I'm currently the vice chair of the board, and I'm an ex officio non-voting member. I was originally elected to the board in 2023 when I was in a role at the Huntington Library, which is a medium-sized level institution. And then when I moved to the Getty, according to the bylaws, I could no longer be the rep for medium because Getty is a large institution. So that position opened up last spring, and Julia rejoined in the medium seat, but I could stay on in my vice chair capacity as a non-voting member. I'm very grateful I can serve out a term on the board and continue to learn from my colleagues on the board and at Lyrasis and ArchivesSpace, participating in discussions and supporting the ArchivesSpace community. And then I also want to note, because it highlights some of the work of the board, is that those rules have since changed. That was not the first time a board member's service was interrupted or almost interrupted by a job change. And the board discussed and decided to amend the bylaws so that they now read an elected member whose employment status, for example, an internal position shift or a move to another institution, will remain on the board through the end of their applicable term, given that they remain employed at an ArchivesSpace member institution, regardless of membership level category. Each standing or ex officio member shall serve as long as they hold their qualifying position. So the board agreed that maintaining continuity through members' terms and board stability and organizational memory was preferable when possible, and that even if a board member moves to a different size institution, they can still effectively represent the institution size they were elected in as. The bylaws for governance of ArchivesSpace are online, linked to from the website if you would like to read more. And then the other non-voting board member is Bridget Almas, who's the Director of Community Supported Technologies at Lyrasis, and she's the organizational representative on the board. Bridget started in her position as well as her board service in the spring of 2024 in what was a new role at Lyrasis created to oversee the community supported programs, which includes ArchivesSpace and other applications. Okay, so another absolutely critical arm of ArchivesSpace governance, which I'm sure you've all heard of before, is the Technical Advisory Council, also called TAC or TAC, and the User Advisory Council, UAC. We have with us here today the chairs of both councils. So if you're willing to unmute yourselves, turn on your cameras if you'd like, and introduce yourselves and say a little bit about your council experience or your history with ArchivesSpace, I would appreciate it. We will start with Austin.
Yeah, Austin Munsell at the University of Oregon Special Collections. Been using ArchivesSpace here since 2018, and I'm currently in my 4th year on the Technical Advisory Council, a bonus 4th year to serve as the chair of the council, which happens sometimes. And I suppose the other unique thing I could say about my relationship is that the University of Oregon is not actually a member of ArchivesSpace. I've never been able to successfully make the ask, but TAC still will accept some non-member institutions to be on the Technical Advisory Council. I'll pass it over to Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. I am Rebecca Bagno. I'm the Special Collections Librarian at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. I am the current chair of the User Advisory Council, which works to facilitate communication between the user community and the governance board, as well as maintains a variety of responsibilities as they relate to the use and development of ArchivesSpace. I too am in my 4th-ish year on council. I have been here since 2021 and have primarily served on the user documentation sub-team. And at my home institution, we use ArchivesSpace as the staff and the public interface as our primary collection management system for archival materials. And I also serve as the liaison between my department and our library's IT department with regard to use and migrations of all ArchivesSpace versions. And thanks for having me here today.
Thank you. So to give you all a better idea of our work, we'll highlight a few of our various recent initiatives and discussions. So starting with the board, Eric, do you want to say something about the diversity partnership?
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. So hopefully you've all heard about the diversity partnership before. It's an initiative that the board endorsed and launched in 2021 with the goal of diversifying ArchivesSpace membership. I just want to give a shout out to our program manager for ArchivesSpace, Christine DeBella, who brought this idea forward, along with the work of her colleagues, of course. The board was really enthusiastic about this and, fully supported it. This program provides 3 years of support in implementing and using ArchivesSpace using a cohort-based model for a few members. And this program recently concluded our first cohort-based group who were part of the group from 2021 to 2024, and it's great to see them continue to use ArchivesSpace. And just this past July, we welcomed our second cohort. So just wanted to say welcome to Cherokee National Research Center, the CUNY Haitian Studies Institute, the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe, the Samal House of Art, and Texas Southern University. Hope you have a great experience in this program. And just in conclusion, want to also thank of course, all ArchivesSpace members, because your funds help support this program, and Lyrasis and Atlas Systems, who are the registered service providers providing hosting services for this cohort. All right, Maggie?
Thank you. Matthew, are you willing to speak about our strategic board discussions?
Yeah, sure. So we've had some quite wide-ranging discussions recently around community engagement and technology, and we do find that both those areas overlap a great deal in helping ArchivesSpace meet its goals. So DEAI has been a topic we've discussed a lot recently, thinking about how institutions can meet their DEIA goals through ArchivesSpace, and diversity inclusion within the community and on the councils and governance board. Also thinking about ways in which communities with similar needs can be brought together and work together. So kind of previous examples of the regional forums, for example. Also around capacity issues of small archives, where might be one archivist working, and how we can support them, both in terms of using and then installing the application as well. The benefits of membership, the membership model, how that works, thinking about supporting international use around inclusive practice and standards. On the technology front, generative AI, you might not be surprised to hear about something that we've discussed recently and how that could work with ArchivesSpace. Also thinking in terms of integrations, we know that's a topic the community is really interested in. And then things like technical debt, making sure the application is sustainable for the future, security, and then supporting widening the user base through both those methods of engagement and technology. So I'll hand back to Maggie.
Thank you. And finally, I wanted to talk for a minute about the Code of Conduct Review Task Force, which was chaired by Julia and previously by Annie Benefiel in her previous service on the board. The task force was launched in 2024 to study how to apply the ArchivesSpace community's Code of Conduct. It was a collaboration with the Center for Scientific Collaboration and Community Engagement, CSCCE, to review and refine our Code of Conduct and related processes. Together, the task force members in the CSCCE developed core value statements for the ArchivesSpace community to underpin the Code of Conduct. These statements describe the foundation of how community members would like to interact with one another and include definitions and examples of these values. Task force members also had the opportunity to take part in a workshop on moderation and escalation pathways that helped to brainstorm scenarios during which the ArchivesSpace Code of Conduct and values could potentially be tested. The governance board and both councils reviewed and provided feedback on the drafted core values in late 2024. The final version was approved by the governance board earlier this month and just went up online this week. You can check out an ArchivesSpace blog post for for more information from Julia. And the core values are also up on the website. I will put them in the chat right now. Yeah, so that is all I have to say about that. I will next turn it over to Austin to share recent initiatives and discussions from TAC.
Sure. So going over just kind of the major themes and goals for this year, Rebecca and I probably both share this one: sustainability across terms, really both maintaining, there's really excellent documentation to guide the work of the councils throughout the year, but maintaining that and then supporting also the various sub-teams that we have in developing similar documentation so they have that continuity across terms. Secondly, in monthly TAC council meetings, we've really tried to focus this year on engagement with the program and development team to discuss technical issues impacting the ArchivesSpace community. And this was largely based on feedback from TAC membership in the previous year that indicated this type of engagement was really desired and wanted. So we've had a lot of sessions involving the development and program team discussing things. And then finally, and this also extends a theme through previous years, really looking at council membership as a value add for all the council members, something of benefit that goes across a variety of areas, including developing those technical skills, gathering information about the application that you might not get otherwise. I know I got a lot of that out of working on the testing team over the years. And then obviously the career advancement piece, but also just a place of interaction with the ArchivesSpace community. So that's the major goals across there. And I will pass it to Rebecca.
All right, thank you. So the User Advisory Council is currently made up of about 17 members at present who serve on 3 council-specific sub-teams and 2 cross-council sub-teams with the Technical Advisory Council. Our current goals and themes for UAC this year include continued emphasis on continuity of operations across terms, as Austin also referenced, both within the council itself and at the leadership level. This builds on similar themes from past terms in terms of focusing on how to ensure success for the next term's chair, all the new members that we take on each year, and continuation of sub-team work as the terms of other members continue to expire. Essentially, we just want to make sure that we are ensuring that our projects are taken care of and that the effort that we put forth is moved forward as we rotate off. Also, in concert with sub-team leads, UAC is working to take the pulse of responsibilities and workloads of our various sub-teams to make sure that as ArchivesSpace matures, that we have council and sub-team membership that are at the right sizes to perform the tasks at hand and ensure that sub-team leads have what they need to fulfill their team's responsibilities and charge. So the bulk of council work for both TAC and UAC takes place within sub-teams, and there are 7 sub-teams, as I just mentioned, between the 2 councils. So Austin will provide some insight into the work of the TAC sub-teams and the cross-council sub-teams first.
All right, and we're going to go rapid fire because it looks like we're short on time. So if I get into Micro Machines voice, just know that that's what's going on. So the 2 TAC exclusive subteams are metadata standards and technical documentation. Metadata presented yesterday, so there's an excellent session. You should go check out the recordings of that. But generally, they're tasked with documenting and monitoring the standards landscape as it relates to ArchivesSpace. This year, they created a work plan based on a community survey that went out last year for metadata. And based on that, they've been reviewing JIRA tickets and soliciting feedback from the community through the listserv. The team has also been working with the Multilingual Description Task Force, which is working right now, reviewing the tickets related to that development. And they're also monitoring the development of EAD 4.0 to make general recommendations for subsequent sub-team iterations. Tech Docs, on the other side, or technical documentation, supports the continuing maintenance and enhancement of the ArchivesSpace technical documentation. So this year, that has included a lot of editorial guidance related to the recently relaunched ArchivesSpace technical documentation pages. The work included adding descriptions to each page, adding an RSS feed, and then just the general maintenance of the GitHub repository. Cross-council there are 2 teams, development prioritization, which also presented yesterday. Again, excellent presentation, you should check it out. And the testing team. So DevPri focuses on the prioritization of feature requests and bug reports for development. This term, DevPri has already reviewed 78 tickets, and they've sought community feedback on 3 feature requests, including the broader ArchivesSpace community in the development of those requests so that they're more reflective. The team has also established a procedure for development prioritization members to directly edit tickets that are being sent to the developers so that there can be some of that translation of community speak to developer speak where they have developed some of that expertise. And then the testing sub-team, I used to lead the testing sub-team, and what I would always say is just testing test stuff. That is completely true, but to give it a little more oomph than that, they spent much of their time this year testing the 4.0 release, which has just come out. They're also working on simplifying the testing process in general through the application of conditional statements to the overall testing protocol. And if you want to see things about conditional statements, go back to last year's virtual member forum and watch the excellent presentation that Themios gave on the subject. And now I will pass it back to Rebecca.
All right, thank you. So the 3 UAC council-specific subteams are member engagement, which administers the ArchivesSpace member match program. This term, it's held First Friday events and member mixers associated with the member match program. The team has also debuted a new Slack channel to support discussion with members in the program and has submitted updates to the subteam's charge. The usability sub-team works to improve ArchivesSpace's everyday usability by responding to and submitting JIRA tickets The team has also been working with front-end developer Brian Zellup to enable archivists to modify default configuration settings directly in the SUI, which many of us would like to do, and is planning a community discussion on this topic coming soon. And finally, the user documentation sub-team creates and updates documentation within the user manual, and this term has prepared a lot of documentation for the release of version 4.0. Additionally, the team has begun a project to consolidate duplicate pages within the user manual into single higher level pages, and has recently published documentation pertaining to the functionality of the fields that publish in the PUI. So thank you for your time, and that wraps up our council descriptions.
Thank you so much, Austin and Rebecca. So now, if we had time, we would do some Q&A. I think I overestimated how much we could get through in our allotted time slot. If anyone has any burning questions, you can also reach out to me via email or the ArchivesSpace home@lyrasis.org. I think if anyone does have any questions, you could sneak it into the chat real quick. Otherwise, I also want to mention that there are, as you've seen, many ways to get involved with ArchivesSpace governance. You should be on the lookout for calls for nominations that will come out next month. That's for the board, it's for the Technical Advisory Council and the User Advisory Council. They do come out in the spring annually. So if this year isn't the right year for you, please consider it in future years. And just consider, nominating yourself. That is what most people do. You can also nominate a colleague. But if you're thinking about it, you should go for it. These are all great groups, very welcoming. It's a very supportive community, and we hope you'll consider putting your hat in the ring at some point in the future. So thank you to all the board members and council chairs who were here today and helped with this presentation. And again, please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie, and thank you to the rest of the board and to Rebecca and to Austin for that. It's always nice to get that broad overview, to be reminded of everything that we accomplished throughout the year. So that was great. And again, like Maggie said, and this came up a lot over the past 3 sessions, if you think you might be interested in serving, please do self-nominate. The community only continues to grow, and we want to make sure we continue to represent everyone in our governance. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who stayed with us until the bitter end. We did run over a little bit, but not by as much as I was anticipating. So I'm calling that a win, actually. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone who's still here. And I appreciate everyone who might be watching the recording later, who attended some part of the session. Please do fill out that survey that Ben just dropped the link to in the chat. It's important for us to know how this went and how we can improve in the future. Thank you to all of our presenters. It was a really great 3 days or 3 sessions.